Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California weather-wise. Today is February 16th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Check out our next frontal system right off the coastline. You can't miss it. Flooding potential, Bay Area northward with this one. Some winter weather advisories in effect, but we've got an even stronger storm developing north of the Hawaiian Islands here. Slower moving, going to bring some big wind, some big waves with it as well. Flooding potential up and down the coastline. Winter storm watches are in effect. We'll dive into those details as we go through the video here this morning. Now we're looking at the jet extension, our daily look at it. You can see California to the right, is Japan to the far left. We're looking about 39,000 feet and clearly see it moving across associated with that next frontal system and then the next stronger storm as we roll on into the early and mid portion of next week upcoming. Wind advisory 9 p.m. Friday through 1 p.m. Saturday. Check it out, gusts to 60 here. Watch out, some power outages are possible, especially across the higher ridges here in the coastal headlands. So not as strong as the last round, but still pretty windy. You're definitely going to notice it here. And we've got another shot of wind coming as well with the next system that we'll look at here in a moment. Elevated surf expected on Saturday. Look at this, 22-foot breakers are possible. This is Eureka National Weather Service. Good life advice here. Never turn your back on the ocean. Stay off the jetties. And this is going to be up and down the coastline. As you see, the high surf advisory is all the way through 4 p.m. Sunday here across the Bay Area down towards Big Sur. This is going to go down towards Southern California as well. Look at some of these locally breaking waves of 28 feet here. So watch out. Do not turn your back on the ocean. Heads up if you're going to be out near the coastline here as we go through the day Sunday. Storm total rain late Friday night through Sunday AM. This is just the first round here, and you can see some of these big amounts as you go further north. And I just want to point out, if you're living in some of these communities anywhere across the state of California, it's always good to know your elevation. It's good to know what routes you have in and out of your community, because there are some landslide potential with these storms coming up here. And then you get some urban and small stream flooding, or a creek washes out a roadway and whatnot. It's always good to know those things, especially knowing your elevation and what kind of slopes are around you. Are they landslide prone? All good things to know. Virtually the entire state of California, it's good to know those things. And now looking at the moderate snow here, the timing from 10 a.m. tomorrow morning to 4 a.m. Sunday here. And then we got a winter storm watch for storm number 2 that I showed you on the infrared satellite imagery there. Some very gusty winds across the higher terrain. Snow levels are going to be relatively high though. Most of the major snow above 6,000 feet, but still check before you go. I'll show you some webcams you can look at when trying to cross back and forth, especially across the Sierra Nevada. Chain controls are possible. Winter weather advisory, again, above 6,000 feet. And there's going to be storm number 2 that'll bring some snow again above 6,000 feet here across much of the Sierra Nevada. This is the winter storm watch for that storm number 2. And you can see the amounts start to get quite heavy here. 2 to 4 feet above 7, 1 to 2 feet from 6 to 7,000 feet. And this goes all the way on in through Tuesday morning here. It says Tuesday night, but that's 4 a.m. Tuesday. Looks like they made a little typo there. Anyway, extended storm event Saturday through Wednesday here. This is going to affect portions of Southern California. Still some uncertainty on how much it's going to affect the Los Angeles metro and some of the transverse ranges. But right now, Santa Barbara County and Ventura County look like they're going to be targeted here. You still could get some snow above 7,000 or 8,000 feet and some gusty winds out there. They also talk about the high surf and coastal flooding possible. So keep away from that large and dangerous surf. High impacts. Take action. Projected precip Sunday evening through Tuesday night. Coastal ranges going to be targeted here at times over the next few days into next week. And again, higher elevation snowfall. Now, looking at the European, this is the frontal system rolling in here as we go through this afternoon. It's going to start through tonight across Northern California. It's really going to pick up for some of the valley locations that you go through Saturday afternoon. You'll see it there and some of the coastal areas. The Bay Area is going to be quite blustery tomorrow also on into tomorrow evening. The front loses some of its punches that moves down the coastline, but some of the models are showing some precipitation get towards Southern California with the first system. But then the stronger storm arrives, and you can see the winds really ramp up as you go through Sunday, late morning into the afternoon hours. And look at this low pressure center just kind of sit and spin out here as we go through the day. Monday, multiple rounds of some strong winds for the coastal areas. So you can have big waves up and down the coastline. You can have beach erosion and some minor coastal flooding as well. Now, taking a look at those waves, a little bit of an elevated bump here as we go, and we get a little bit of a break here as we go through today, but then the waves are going to return with a vengeance here as we go on in through Saturday night and on in through Sunday. Storm number 2 developing out there, sending another shot at waves from much of the coastline of California all the way on in through the day Tuesday, maybe wrapping up there by the time we get towards Wednesday morning. So watch out when those high waves correlate with some of the high tide activity for sure. Now, looking at the GFS on the left versus the Canadian on the right. Good agreement in the short term with the timing of this system, but the Canadian is definitely more aggressive with the rainfall amounts across some of the central coast. But both models show some pretty heavy rainfall incoming here for places Bay Area northbound here. So again, tomorrow is going to be a day where you watch the Doppler radar here and watch out for the heavier rainfall occurring out there, and try not to travel if you don't have to during that time. And then do you see the Canadian brought a little bit of that light rainfall down to Southern California there, and the GFS maybe a little bit, but a little bit lighter amounts. Then the stronger storm arrives here as we go through Sunday night. Into Monday, you can see some of these areas getting trained on here. Some of this activity, atmospheric river kind of hanging out, maybe near San Luis Obispo and the central coastline areas here, and then eventually it starts to pivot across Southern California in both the GFS and the Canadian model as well. And these are 3-hour chunks I'm moving through here, so we could have some flooding concerns across some of Southern California with this one. Things are still quite saturated from the last system. Then it pivots across Los Angeles and Orange County here, but it looks like it does lighten up. However, you can't still sleep on some of this heavier rain, potentially, at least for a time, down through San Diego County. But it does not look like it's going to be quite as dynamic as last round. And I mean, it would take quite a storm to actually beat the last round. That was really intense rainfall. And then if we scroll up in the extended, you can see that cutoff low that kind of remains off the coastline here. And the Canadian a little bit closer with it, but we'll worry about that later. Now here's the King Euro. European model. So you can see the heavy rain. I mean, these are 6-hour chunks. So you see sometimes Saturday morning, the rain starts for the coastal areas north of the Bay Area. And you can see by the time late morning here, there comes the heaviest rain. And it continues on through the afternoon, evening, just kind of wrapping up there. So pretty good bout of rainfall there. Does bring some light precipitation down to Southern California, but the big stuff comes with the next storm. Again, a nice shot of rain for Northern California, Central Coast, and then we really start to get some of these big amounts across Santa Barbara and Ventura County, just clipping Los Angeles County here at times. So again, any kind of change in this atmospheric river track is going to really have big impacts on the flooding concerns across the state. And you can see multiple rounds here with this low just kind of hanging off the shoreline here. Again, bringing some heavy precip to Central and Northern California. A pretty dynamic storm incoming here as we roll all the way on through Wednesday. You still see the precipitation hanging out here before it finally wraps up as you get towards Thursday morning. And taking a look here, you can check webcams on the National Weather Service pages if you want to as well. And they correlate with avalanche.org. And you can look, I-80 if you want to check out Donner Summit or Truckee or Donner Lake. And you can kind of see the road conditions. So always good to check before you go out. Make sure you got chains in your vehicles, especially trying to cross the higher passes as we go on into the mid portion of next week. Donner Summit, you can see the snow levels between 6,000 and 7,000 feet. So relatively high here. But again, these higher passes are going to be affected by snowfall for the next few days. And if you want a nice affordable home weather station to record all this crazy weather we get here across the southwest portion of the USA, click on that link down below to save 10% off. This is a pretty sweet setup. You got an ultrasonic anemometer, no batteries. Smartphone is great, and it does 3-second updates. Pretty cool. You can make your own graphs and stuff too. Stores all the data for you in the cloud. So this is for today. Obviously, no excessive rainfall outlook, but watch tomorrow. That slight was introduced. We talked about that moderate precip, heavy at times, rolling in through the day tomorrow. And then we include much of the Central Coast down towards Santa Barbara County here for day 3, day 4, again, Southern California, depending on how long this atmospheric river hangs up. And even day 5, it does include some of the Los Angeles metro here as well. So pretty dynamic storm, and you know how this is going to go. There's going to be areas that get uptrended here and overperform with this slow-moving, powerful storm off the coastline here, throwing multiple rounds of precipitation and atmospheric river activity back into the state. So doesn't look like it's going to be as bad as last time, but doesn't mean that locally it can't even be worse for some areas. So do not let your guard down. And looking at the North American model, I just want to show you here the timing. Again, you can kind of see the rain starting to kick up as we go through very early tomorrow morning. And the heaviest rain starts to roll in here as we go through right around the noon hour there for some of the coastal areas. Again, mainly north of the Bay Area, but still some decent amounts down the coastal areas here too as well. All the way down towards Point Conception. And again, some nice snow for the higher terrain of the Sierra Nevada. And then you'll see storm number 2 start to get ramped up here. Pretty deep low pressure center on some of those models. Going to bring multiple rounds of rain and wind and wave activity. So pretty crazy storm coming up here as we go through Sunday night on in through the mid portion of next week. Looking looking at the surface-based cape. Sorry about that. Now, taking a look here, you can see that this frontal system, they do have some instability associated with them. This locally can increase some of the rainfall amounts. You can't even rule out a thunderstorm here with that frontal system moved in. I did see a few strikes out there this morning, and the next system out there as well is going to have a little bit of a boost here. Above normal water temperatures off the coastline can enhance those low-level lapse rates and increase some of those rainfall amounts locally. And this kind of shows you here the sea surface temperature anomaly. I don't think it's as bad as it was a few weeks ago, but it's still above average off the coastline there, and that could intensify some of this rainfall. Now, looking at total precipitation in inches on the National Blended Model. So here comes the first frontal system, and you can see some of the heavier amounts north of the Bay Area, at least initially. But then that secondary system is going to be hot on the heels of that one, and you can see some of these big amounts. And you know, after the last system, you kind of look at this and you get a little bit numb to these amounts. But, 2 inches of rain is a lot, especially when it falls in a 24-hour period. And 4 inches of rain, you're talking about 5, 6 locally. And some of the higher terrain of the Sierra Nevada, the snow levels, again, are quite high. So you could have some flooding, even in the foothills as well. And then we continue to scroll off into next week. And, a couple inches of rainfall can be problematic over very saturated soils across Southern California. But right now, the impacts do look to be less as you get through Orange and San Diego County as of right now. I'm not expecting much here through, what is this? You're going on into Friday morning here. You're not expecting anything for Southeast California there, like Las Vegas stays mainly dry, and a lot of Arizona not going to be impacted much by these storms. However, you can see that this is a pretty good one here for the state of California. Now, looking at total snow, again, just kind of run through this here really quick, as this is going to be mainly delegated to the higher terrain as we go on in through the upcoming period here. So just wanted to point that out. And here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation. Still got California there as we go through February 26th. Monthly temperature outlook. I showed this one yesterday here in case anybody missed it. This is for March 2024. Kind of that above average signal across a lot of California and Nevada. You can see some below across Arizona and New Mexico, however. Kind of an El Nino signature there. Monthly precipitation outlook. Check it out for March. Still got that bullseye for California, so we may not be done with the storms just yet. That's something we'll be revisiting here as we take a glance off into the extended forecast on into further days. But yeah, this one is a doozy out here, folks. That one is going to be hanging around with us for a while and no doubt is going to overperform for some areas in this initial system. It is progressive, but it is going to bring some moderate and heavy rainfall for some areas, kind of priming things for this next storm system out here. So we got multiple rounds of wind, waves, rain, snowfall for the higher terrain. It's going to be a crazy time here as we go through the mid portion of next week. And then we'll see if we get a break after that. We'll start checking those extended forecasts, of course, as we get closer. But anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.